Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Inworld Review. Today it's the 22nd of September 2013, of course, and up here in the Northern Hemisphere at least, autumn is with us, though we're having a brief respite here in London. Just a hint of warmness in the air before it all goes frozen again, unseasonably so. And with the fall, of course, more people are coming back online after their organic excursions of the summer. And it's that time of year where there's conferences, events, and various things coming up. And of course, here in Second Life, where we film this program, everybody is getting ready for Halloween, even though the actual date of Halloween is probably, well, more than a month away. But it tends to be end of September, October is the whole Halloween season for very Second Life. And we will actually be having a special show on Halloween night, the clips of which are being compiled as we speak, so to speak. Anyway, we're here to talk about the metaverse, the world of immersive spaces online. And indeed, we have, of course, a particular focus on Second Life. It's the big public high street of the metaverse where lots of things happen. Art exhibitions, music concerts, plenty of shops, of course, inevitably. And, well, we'll come to the things as we come to them. First of all, of course, it's time for me to give you a rundown on the other spaces that qualify as the metaverse out there on Open Simulator and other places too. Open Simulator being the main source of the hypergrid, which is a system that allows independent grids, rather like Second Life and Inworlds and the big ones, to actually connect together to form one giant grid. They're not one giant grid, but you can teleport between them. You hyper jump between them, if you catch my drift. and talking about that, our friend Pathfinder Lester has we used to go journeying around Open Sims and the hypergrid a couple of years ago, I suppose, and there were a few of us who were trotting around there, just trying hypergridding over to different grids and seeing what was there. And it has sort of faded a bit. John particularly has been getting more into Unity 3D and stuff like that. But the good news is he is rebooting the Hypergrid Adventurers Club. And I'm trying to find the first date. Yes, the first date will be next Saturday, the 28th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, which, yes, Eastern Time. That would be 7 p.m. Second Life time, which is commonly referred to as Metaverse time. That's going to be quite late for me, but never mind, I might make it. Anyway, so that's next Saturday, 7 p.m. Second Life time, the rebooting of the Hypergrid Adventurers Club. And it looks as though the starting point, if you want the hypergrid in, is actually going to be where the Open Simulator Community Conference was, but I can't swear to that. So just check up on Twitter or what have you. Right. Daniel Voyager had a blog this week with some interesting stats about the Pixie Viewer. Now, the Pixie Viewer is a viewer that he's worked on that works as a plugin on a web page. And there was a big demonstration about it at the Open Simulator Conference recently. And basically, there's 500 new registrations, and there are a total of 1,200 registered users as of the moment, a lot of which I suspect was due to the very interesting talk he gave. Sunny Salamander is the person behind it. He gave at the Open Sim conference. Okay, where's my next tab here? Now, oh yes, if you follow Twitter or were care to check out K0.com, K0 is actually quite well known. He produces from time to time, quarterly usually, these sort of charts which you can get as SlideShare presentations on the web. Basically, all about the state of virtual worlds, including kids' virtual worlds and stuff. And he's had 2 charts recently updated this week, sort of with all the background statistics you might want to know about take-up of virtual worlds. I've also got a link here, if I can possibly see the address. My browser doesn't want to let me. But if you go to SlideShare or Google SlideShare on the web, there's quite a lot of educators, particularly, tend to put up posts and slideshows up there. And there's one from Simon Bignell, who's Dr. Simon Bignell, psychology at the University of Derby, and he's known in world as Milton Broom. And it's about 3D virtual avatars and machinima to educate students about sustainability. Very interesting project indeed. So you can find that at SlideShare. Beg my pardon, I'm getting Skype noises. I may have to leave a couple of groups while we're talking here. And I'm coughing as well. Sorry, still getting over my lurgy, as somebody called it the other day. Not sure that's the right phrase, but never mind. Okay, Singularity Viewer, which is one of the independent viewers for virtual worlds, has released an automated build system. And Print Perfect's new special issue, which is usually mostly about Second Life, but it does cover other virtual worlds too. Published, of course, by our good friend Safir Widdershins. Earlier in the week, the new issue came out, and this is the special issue on non-profits and charitable things in virtual worlds generally. So very interesting read. That issue has been moving on up. What else do we have? I know there's something crucial coming up here that I can't see. It's quite interesting. According to Hypergrid Business, Maria Koroloff, the OpenSim convention has actually resulted in a new market spur for OpenSim traffic. In other words, since that convention, there has been a lot more, not any particular grid, but just a lot more traffic on OpenSim since presumably the things that were demonstrated at the convention and everything have sort of got people interested. So there you go. Good news for the hypergrid and everything else. A lot more interest in Minecraft too, which I don't really call a virtual world, but it is certainly a creative platform if you like the principle of sort of Lego type building. And of course, the bigger and greater you get, the more good it looks from a distance. It's rather like if you think of every Lego brick as a pixel, and then the more and more pixels you cram into a build and the more you zoom out, the more realistic it actually gets. So a lot of people take an interest in Minecraft these days. I mean, it's got something like 3 million users, some incredible amount. But educators in particular are finding that it's a perfect place for teaching kids, really, who, as we've seen with Jocadia and things, they will then come into somewhere like OpenSim and they'll go wow at all the tools there, and they'll extend their interest from what they've learnt in Minecraft, so to speak. So worthy of investigating. In the organic sim, so to speak, there is a brand new library being opened. Oh, it's a few months ago now in Birmingham. That's called the Library of Birmingham, oddly enough. And Dayton Limited have published online, if you can find this at SlideShare and at Dayton Co., a show share of the virtual Library of Birmingham, a buildingscapes case study. Basically, Dayton developed the whole library as a virtual library before it was ever built in real life, and now few years down the line, it's been built in real life. So Dayton released a sort of extensive back summary of how it all came about and everything like that. So very interesting project there. I've mentioned K0. Yes, Minecraft, a child's obsession, finds use as an educational tool. Yeah, won't open up that one. Oh, now this is something very interesting. The Singularity viewer. We mentioned this. This is the viewer in alpha anyway that I was using for the OpenSim conference. Probably the best viewer at the moment to go into OpenSim with, though you can use it in Second Life too. But one of the interesting features that we've mentioned is that you can export collada files, in other words, mesh files from it. So let's say you make a square prim and a circular prim and then a long pipey prim and make it into a lampshade and group them all together. You can export it as collada, and you can then re-import it into OpenSim or wherever you want to put it, and it comes in as a mesh file. And what would have been 3 prims will probably come out with a one landing pad or something. So you can, by converting to mesh, which is what collada is, you have a way of economizing on your objects. But the interesting thing is that up to date, when you bring in a mesh file you've exported, you've got to retexture it and do everything like that because it was an object shape that was coming in. Well, the nice thing is that the new version of Singularity 1.83 now actually allows you to export textures with your collada files. So you can hopefully export the collada file with the textures and re-import them with the textures intact, which is rather nice indeed because you don't have to go to all the retexturing work. Kitely, which is a different kind of way of accessing OpenSims and virtual worlds, actually, has launched a brand new welcome center, a new look welcome center. Now, they've been making the rounds in the news recently because of their marketplace as an alternative to Second Life's marketplace. But they've just updated their welcome center. So if you log in to OpenSim or whatever via Kitely, you'll see a rather flashy, nice new welcome center telling you what to do and how to navigate and all the rest of the things you sort of need to know. And of course, in Kitely, it's slightly different from a standard virtual world viewer. Where are we? Okay, I haven't got a link to that, so we'll leave that one. Rebooting the... Yep, that is it. That is it for my summary on the Open Simulator and the greater metaverse. So for a more pertinent summary of lots of technical things and no doubt hunts and cats and all sorts of things, it's over to my partner Tara Yates for her roundup of the week. Welcome, Tara.
Oh dear. You mean I have to do geeky stuff? I don't have any geeky stuff this week.
Oh well, we can live without geeky stuff for a week or two.
Yeah. Well, greetings from the Pacific Northwest, which has returned to its wet state as an observation of the first day of fall, the first day of autumn, as the days grow shorter in the northern hemisphere, and it seemed fitting, in recognition of that, to do something that had an autumnal feel to it, and I paid a little visit to Organica, which is one of my favorite tree places. Organica has kind of branched out into other stuff, but picked up, hopefully, Petlove has one of her presets to this one, a lovely bonsai maple in autumn colors. It's over to the left of stage as you're looking at the stage, Petlove, if you can zoom in on it just for a quick look. The Organica bonsais, and there's several, are, I think, particularly noteworthy because they're authentic. They've been created by somebody who actually understands bonsai, and I don't know if they do it themselves, if they actually grow bonsai, but this one is quite lovely. And there was another one I debated about getting instead, but I settled on this one. Anyway, so there's our little token to the fall season, and leaves turning when they turn wherever you are, if they do. In some places they don't particularly turn. I think that's Mal's situation. They just kind of fall off. You don't get the the colorful foliage that the northeast corner of the U.S., New England, is particularly known for. There are parts of Washington State, depending upon the year, that we get some pretty dramatic individual trees anyway. The vine maples in my neck of the woods get a very, very wild yellow. And east of the mountains in eastern Washington, there's lots of color in those trees over there. Anyhow, so it's fall, and we are now at the point where the length of our nights is getting longer than the length of our days, and will continue for the next several months as we settle into the dark season. Anyhow, let's see. News-wise, this I thought was pretty interesting. There's an outfit called Virbela, which stands for Virtual Business Education Leadership Assessment. They were a winner in a competition, and I'll mention this down the ways, but they have put together a 3D immersive environment to deliver business education and connect business students from around the world. And they're launching in October in a global business simulation competition for MBA students. That's the environment being introduced, which is Virbela, which I just told you what it stands for, is itself the product of an academic competition. The platform is intended to allow students to get a taste of what it's like to be part of a virtual work team, particularly in this case, virtual teams working multinational, multicultural. So, they study all this stuff in MBA classes, but it's actually getting some real experience with the practice of this sort of things. And this provides a technology where students can be in those multicultural, multinational teams working together without having to do study abroad. Can't go to every country and learn from people in all these different places, but you can let them connect with students from all over the world so they learn a little bit about the business culture in those areas. I think the other piece of this that is very worthwhile is remote workers and working with teams remotely, and having the opportunity to figure out how you juggle time zones, which from my own work experience of the last several years, really is a significant piece of the puzzle of having a distributed workforce in multiple countries. When it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the UK and everybody's headed home, it's only 9 o'clock in my location in the morning, and my day is just starting. So it creates some interesting wrinkles. So anyway, the launch will kick off with the student contest, which will bring together 32 MBA students who will be divided into remote multinational teams of 4, probably not knowing each other. Each team will manage an automotive company with objectives to build sales, improve profitability, and maximize shareholder value by making quarterly inputs over 16 to 20 virtual quarters. The environment will allow students to collaborate and compete using customized avatars, a voice-over IP system, text chat, and 3D visuals of company assets such as inventory, product lines. And they've got a $50,000 US prize money, including $7,000 that will go to each member of the winning team. It's being run by the University of California, San Diego School of Management. They've got applications from a whole lot of different places around the world. Let's see. When the competition is over, the Virbela is a startup itself. They won a competition that was put on by GMAC's, the Graduate Management Admission Council's Management Education for Tomorrow Fund Ideas to Innovation Challenge. How's that for a mouthful? Both for the virtual world idea and its implementation. So they won twice with their project. After this competition is over, they expect to open the environment for free use for an unspecified period by students, faculty, and business people. So I'm going to try to kind of keep a finger on that one, and because I think it may be interesting to see how they're doing that with that. Another interesting, here's something, those of you who live in or might be visiting in the Los Angeles area around November 19th. There's an organization called Eon Reality, which has been is active in the kind of the whole virtual environment field. They are launching I don't know if I would call it a theater or what, but they're having a launch on that day to their news release, explore our solar system, outer space, and survive a black hole, or meet, follow, and help Humphrey, a baby humpback whale, on his adventures in deep oceans. Eon Vision iDome visitors will experience stunning virtual reality characters and elements mixed with the latest digital image capture. Personal interactivity devices ensure multiplayer collaboration, individual excitement, and infinite variation possibilities. Their marketing wonks really rolled out all the superlatives there. 3D visuals and 3D sound married with 4D elements like moving seats and ambient effects, water, heat, wind, result in an addictive, adaptable, and exploratory learning environment. This sounds really cool, actually. It's the Eon Vision iDome is the first dome to combine Hollywood cinematographic yeah, movie quality. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. How do you pronounce that word? Anyway, movie quality with full interactivity for every guest. It's revolutionizing the edutainment market by combining the best elements of feature films, theme parks, museums, and interactive gaming. Anyway, they're registering now. You want to go to eonreality.com to get the information on that. It's November 19th is when they're doing that. Okay, a couple of items that are moving a bit afield from virtual worlds, but you know, the whole social media thing and the tools that people who are involved in virtual environments use extend well beyond our virtual environments. And of course, one of the things we talk about periodically is the use of iPads and iPhones and what have you for access to virtual environments. Well, I ran across some interesting information this week on the subject of apps that will drain your batteries. Yeah, this is always something for people with iPhones especially, but several tips here that I thought were rather useful. Be aware of the fact that here's a list of battery draining apps that you may want to turn off when you're not actually using them. Facebook, Carrot, C-A-R-A-T, which is itself a battery saving app. Isn't that fun? Maps, all kinds of maps. Google Maps, Apple Maps, doesn't matter which kind of maps. Cameras, weather apps. Skype, there's another biggie. Twitter, yes, Twitter will drain your battery. And what's going on with these is they're constantly pinging for new information. And that creates quite a bit of battery drain. Something called Square Wallet, which I haven't seen, which is apparently something you can use for shopping and eating out. And also, alas, Angry Birds. And actually any game, any app game that runs ads. So any of your free ones. To cut to the chase, the biggies here are, if you're not using it, turn off location finder unless you need it specifically. Like, you know, if you need to use a map to get from where you are to someplace else, then yeah, turn it on for that. But otherwise, turn that off because that tends to be creating contacts to keep track of where you are. And the other thing is anything with ads in it, turn that off. But those are the ones that apparently are the big offenders. So useful information to know that if you're out and about and using something that isn't plugged in, here's some things you can turn off until you actually need to use them. One of the other pieces of interesting hardware around are, you know, we are increasingly seeing robots of various kinds, and there's interesting little bit of research done with soldiers. Bomb disposal soldiers in all geographic areas view their robots almost as pets. According to research conducted by Dr. Julie Carpenter at the University of Washington, which is my alma mater, the soldiers take care of the robots that do a great deal of their dirty work, such as bomb disposal. They learn the robots' quirks, what the robots can and can't do. They train with the robots every day, and one day something goes awry and the robot is blown to bits, creating a sense of anger and sadness that soldiers have trouble deciphering. They struggle with how to categorize the robot. On the one hand, they're very clear it's not something that's organic, and they universally define it as a tool, but they're still struggling with how to act towards it, and they end up treating the machine like they would a cat or a dog. Interesting stuff, I thought. Soldiers call their robots he or she, giving them names, and hold funerals for them, which is an interesting twist. That when the robot is God, they do experience a range of emotions, and as described in the research, it sounds very much like loss of, other kinds of losses as far as the emotions experienced. Interesting stuff. So if you get yourself a robot, be warned. If it breaks down irreparably, it may be an occasion for mourning. And one other interesting bit from the world of social media, and I think this has potential applications in virtual environments as well, especially where there's anonymity, such as Second Life. A group of researchers from China have confirmed that anger is in fact the most influential feeling in the digital world, spreading quickly from user to user and inciting more responses than other emotions. This was a conclusion reached by Rui Fan of Beihang University, who led a team analyzing tweets from Weibo, China's equivalent of Twitter. Weibo is used by more than 500 million users and publishes about 100 million tweets every day, compared with Twitter, which has fewer users but more activity. Tweets were divided into 4 main categories: anger, sadness, joy, and disgust, by analyzing users' word choice, and the influence of these messages was calculated by seeing how quickly and frequently followers responded with similar sentiments. If someone sends a sad tweet, how likely is their followers will respond either with sad tweets of their own or to that original tweet? The paper collected and analyzed 70 million tweets from more than 200,000 users over a 6-month period, and showed that while sadness only has a trivial effect on others, anger is most influential, even more so than joy. And the paper describes how anger propagates fast and broadly in the network, a trait that could explain why the real-world events about food security, government bribery, or demolition scandals are always the hot trend on the internet in China. The article says it seems the same could be said of any country with a citizenry that is active online. Anyway, so that interesting stuff. If it makes you mad, if you want something to get traction, something that makes you mad gets more traction faster. But in a more philosophical vein, an interesting quote I ran across. This is from Clive Thompson of Thinking Out Loud, who said, "The fact that so many of us are writing, sharing our ideas, good and bad, for the world to see, has changed the way we think. Just as we now live in public, so do we think in public. And that is accelerating the creation of new ideas and the advancement of global knowledge." Interesting idea, huh? Something to think about. And my final note for the day, for now anyway, is an upcoming event in Second Life this coming weekend. Friday and Saturday is the 3rd Annual International Disability Rights Affirmation Conference. In Second Life, the theme of this year's conference is Let Me In, and focuses on different perspectives about access that are of interest to persons with disabilities, and seeks to address issues of inclusion and freedom of participation. It's taking place at the Sojourner Auditorium on Virtual Ability Island. And that's it for me for now, so I'll toss it back to Mal.
Well, thank you, Tara. As he hastily unmutes, I almost forgot that. Interesting stuff there. I was speaking to Gentle Heron earlier about coming on today, but she's doing something else and said she might come next week. But I don't know why I thought that conference was more than a week away. But maybe she'll come on next week anyway.
Time flies.
Yes, I know. And yeah, Angry Birds is battery drain, eh? Well, they should have called it Chill Out Birds. It's no surprise that this anger emotion is about people. But it is interesting. I did read that thing about making us smarter. It's the reports are that our engagement level is higher. That probably leads to a lot more frustration. But yes, I imagine it is making us smarter too, because we're communicating to a wider variety of people with nothing else. Now, yes, indeed, I did update an iPad this week with a new iOS 7. I have no real complaints with it. I like bits of it. There's other bits I'm missing, but whatever. I also had to upgrade the Apple TV, which went berserk, and I had to go and get a special cable so I could attach it to iTunes and restore it, but it's now sort of fixed. But the memory hog thing is something to watch. I agree with Tara. I mean, especially Facebook, which, given how fast almost every app I have on the iPad opens, Facebook's takes forever and seems to be opening up so many, I don't know what they're snooping on, but I really, really have had enough of Facebook, I think. Yes, there's something else Tara said I was going to comment on. But oh, yes, I did read a blog. She mentioned robots. And it brought to mind that I did read a blog during the week. There's a site online where you can go and build yourself a do-it-yourself robot. And when you've got the robot you want, you can download the component parts and print them out with your 3D printer and then assemble them. And
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it was described as a rather sort of geeky thing, but basically, if you are the sort of DIY person who likes building things and, you don't want Meccano robots anymore, you want to use your 3D printer to print out all the components to build your own robot, well, you can not only do that, by downloading the appropriate files, but you can customize your robot for what you want it to do, etc. And there really has been a thing about people being attached to their robots, a bit like a pet. They're not inanimate, of course, but they're not conscious or anything like that. But they become sort of a habit-forming presence around you. So yes, robots are probably the future. Anyway, to get back onto links and stuff like that. So I've now moved into my other feed, which is more Second Life orientated. Tuesday mornings, our time. Weekly Events SL. That's Weekly Events SL, or one word. So there's two S's near the end there. .blogspot.com. Great read every Tuesday morning. They have a lot of selections of events coming up during the week, things to do and stuff like that. So well worth looking out. I sort of Twitter the post when it comes out each week. Now, there's been an event in World which we have a bad habit here of talking about things that none of us been to and missed, but an event called the Clockwork Spiral, which I think today may be the last day, but it's a shopping and music event featuring steampunk and goth, diesel punk and goth, and dark Victoriana, and it's helping to raise money for the National Kidney Foundation. So it's a sort of charitable event, and I think if you look it up in Second Life, you can still find it today. And I noticed yesterday it was actually on the login screen for Firestorm. So Clockwork Spiral, great name too, actually, I've got to admit. Also, courtesy of Allah's Secrets, a blog here, Rock Your Rack. Yes, rock as in rock and roll, and rack as in the things they tortured people in the medieval days, I guess. This is a fundraising event too, for breast cancer, basically. It's not clear whether it's support or research, but it's being held on it starts on Thursday, September 26th, which is this coming Thursday at 12 a.m. SLT, and it will close at midnight SLT on October the 1st. So designers, music, and all sorts of things happening there. And scrolling down, well, you can check out Rock Your Rack, or one word, .wordpress.com for more information about that. And in the organic sphere, as ever, the wonderful event that happens on the player, the Burning Man, has, I believe, reached its conclusion now. In other words, they probably burnt the man. But a reminder that an event in World of Second Life called Burn 2 occurs, and that will be coming up fairly imminently. Oddly enough, I've just opened the post, and they don't give the dates, but that will soon be coming up. A post from the University of Western Australia. They're not the first on the job, but there's a project called the Freedom Project, an art-themed sim at the University of Western Australia's virtual campus. And it's opened on the 1st of the month, but I think the exhibition is still there now. And it's put on, it's co-organised by the UWA and Virtual Ability and the Centre for ME/CFS and Invisible Illnesses. And so it's actually an art exhibition, but it is centred around these issues, so you might be interested in that. Clicking away here. Oh, sorry, it's Skype chatting again. Right, now, later on in the, after this live bit of the show, we'll be showing some clips, and we have a 15-minute clip featuring a sim called Toru, Toru. And Inara Prey, on her Living in the Modern World during the week, had a rather nice post on the rugged beauty of Toru, so you might want to check that out. Two recently new, if you're into role-playing in Second Life, the two recent rather acclaimed role-play things going up. I won't go into details, but one of them is called New Ventura, Ventura. And the other one I've got a note of here is House of... no, that's not right. Okay, New Ventura. I thought I had another one here. Okay, and also an event here called House of Emmerich. Now, this sounds well worth... it's Pity Sapphire's not here. She might know about this, but it's... House of Emmerich is put on by an organisation in the world called Storybook Events, and it's in aid of American cancer research. And let me see. Right, yeah, the game is actually called House of Emmerich, and you actually play it in World. And it opened on the 6th of September, and it will be continuing to the 4th of October. And you play it with a HUD, and you pay a heads-up display, and you pay 100 lindens for the HUD, which I presume is the principal way of raising money. And you can pick up the HUD at Stormborn Dwarfins Market. That's a storm and born. Storm as in weather, and born as in when you give birth. Dwarfins Market. And again, unfortunately, no actual slur, but you can look that one up, I'm sure. Right, oh yes, nice post in the week from the Nursing Students Perspective magazine. Basically a more detailed experience of Second Life. They look at the Mayo Clinic, and they round up sort of various sims of interest to nursing and medical staff. Right, okay. I will put this away for now. And I'll move on to our guests, because if anything else comes up, I can bring it into the conversation slowly. So, unfortunately, while this is going on, we've got a lot of bat chat going on in Skype from my guests, and I missed it all. So I'm going to have to scroll back as I bring them in. Now, yes, okay, I presume our camera's going in the right place. Yes, the camera's looking at me, because I noticed that one of our guests is rezzing in. Must have crashed. at my side here. So we'll come back to her in a minute. Overseeing over by Tara, well, it's a great welcome back to our friend Will Burns, who's been tragically unable to join us for a couple of weeks. But welcome back, Bill. Will. Sorry.
Tragically, yeah. It was a flaming unicorn and exploding bunnies. No, I've been killing a lot of laptops lately, so I'm on my second one and listening to the silicon fry. So if I disappear in a big puff of smoke, you know what happened. The one
Okay.
the dust.
Well, we seem to, yeah, we've had Debs and now Tara has vanished in a puff of smoke. So
See, it's like, and here I am worried about the blue screen of death fairy, and everybody else is crashing out.
Yeah.
Probably going down the seats here.
Yeah, I suspect so. Yes, because next to
I've
Will.
invited the nothing. I've invited the never-ending stories nothing into the studio.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
Well, next to Will, and you just heard, we got Petlove Petshop. Hi, Pet.
Hello. I have to turn my lips on. I'll never get this right, Mal.
Yeah. Wonderful Petlove, always filming us so well and giving us very accurate instructions, making sure we're all set up. And this is just like me, too busy telling other people what to do and forgetting to do it oneself. It happens, doesn't it? Okay, well, she seems to be fully rest again now. She is in my viewer. So, and yes, she is in bed. So, on my other side here, we have Debs Regent, who we haven't seen for a longish while from Virtual London.
And there are Debs's feet. So hold on one second, and I'll find her head. There she is.
Oh shit! Yeah, Debs.
Okay.
Debs pose 12, which basically.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. My bad for getting on you just then.
I don't have lip sync either yet, so.
You chose pose 12, which puts you upside down.
Pose 12 is cool. I like it.
That's probably
we should
why.
Do a show like that. We should just do a whole show upside down.
Yeah, well, certainly probably it explains why Pet couldn't find your head for the camera.
The American audience, not the American audience, the Australian audience.
Yeah, they knew where to look.
Well, they've got we got autumn, they got spring, so they're not around probably. And anyway, they're asleep, I believe. So welcome, Pets. Welcome, Debs. Welcome back. We haven't seen you for a while. We have a clip which is probably featuring you coming up later, which is probably an old one, but it's preceded by a little clip showing the Big Ben and stuff of Virtual London. So appropriate. We've got a bit of film of your Sims coming up later. How is life in Virtual London?
Oh, very, very busy and changing, actually. We've how can I put this? Over time, recently, the audience has changed. People logging into Second Life seem to be very different from the early adopters that we had, initially. We're getting people who want to be entertained now, and it's interesting to see how many other people are doing exactly the same thing. Yeah, my voice, my lip sync's not working, so I'm looking as if I'm sort of sitting here, sort of.
Oh, no problem.
The talk.
Okay.
Yeah, stay with it. It'll probably come on in 5 minutes or something like these things.
In 5 minutes. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So basically, rather than coming to create and stuff like that, the newcomers just want to be consumers in a way. Is that?
Yeah. Yep, they're all consumers. The problem is, for a lot of virtual world organisations, and I'm very, very sad to see that the one of our sister regions, New London and TARDIS has gone. I sort of often try to get them to work with us, as I have done Brighton and places like that. But people are suffering. People are suffering because of the change, and I think a lot of it is to do with the marketplace.
Being more difficult, or the bias towards consumerism in the marketplace?
Well, what's happened is, or what seems to have happened, is that because we have one shopping sim, we have residential sims, we have entertainment sims, but people tend to be shopping on the marketplace nowadays. Now, I know a lot of places are entirely dependent on, on the upkeep from the merchants, from rentals and things like that. And this is, it's like a whole area that's dying.
I do know. Yeah, I do know. I hadn't really considered it in depth, but I do know that some things I'm involved with of certainly having difficulty getting people that had shops involved before coming back. Yeah, for no reason. It's not that they're gone and don't want to come back. It's they're new locations. It's interesting, and they obviously promote the marketplace now. And to be honest, if you want to search for something, going direct to the marketplace is usually the best way to do it. I mean, even though it's pretty appalling experience, marketplace it's probably less appalling than the Inworld search. But and there are some vendors around who won't go on the marketplace, which is kind of nice because that means you can only get their stuff in World. And I do often, I must say, I tend to, if I see something on the marketplace that, is in my face, I will buy it there rather than anywhere else. But I will, I'll often be looking for something and I'll see a shop and then I will take the swirl and teleport to the shop in Second Life. So I can actually see, it's like going to a shop. You can see the 3D thing in front of you rather than just look at the picture on the web, in a web shop. But interesting.
You're right, and also I've noticed something else in the marketplace. Because competition is toughening up, and because of the marketplace, prices in the marketplace are dropping. They're plummeting.
Ooh.
A year ago, Lindens.
Right, I think I caught that. Your voice was dropping on me.
I think it's probably because. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
My voice is coming in, not listening.
Oh, it came on again. No, it was dropping a bit, but I think I heard what you said. You just said that the items that were something a year ago have now gone down to half price or virtually or something. That is maybe worrying. I mean, I don't know. Maybe people bring down the price on the basis they'll get better profit with volume sales if something is cheaper. It's the old adage, isn't it? Sell one item at $100 or sell 100 at $1. You make the same amount of money, but it's a whole different marketing strategy. Interesting.
And it's supply and demand as well. If you're selling into a larger marketplace, if you've got a shop on a sim, your captive market is the people on that sim, and you don't have any competition apart from the other merchants around you. But if you've then got the marketplace, and all you've got to do is put in a word like shoes, and you've got like pages and pages and pages. Trust me, a girl to think of shoes.
Yeah.
But the competition is tougher. So I know a lot of merchants are disappearing as well because the competition is tough.
It's funny. I mean, actually, just a quick diversion. You also have sims a build on OpenSim, don't you? You had You had the stand at the conference a couple of weeks back. Are you seeing any increase in traffic on the OpenSim?
I'm afraid so. Yes.
Yeah, you are good.
And I've got people saying this is better technically than Second Life. And we've actually made a choice. We were going to go OpenSim for the hypergridding, but we were looking at two things. We were looking at the OpenSim and Avination as well.
Right.
But we've gone with Avination, even though it doesn't have hypergridding.
Right. I was talking to them at the conference. They are hoping. They're actually willing to patch into the hypergrid so long as some security measures are in place for import-export restrictions, I think. Right, okay. But you are actually, even via Avination, which is the walled garden, you're seeing an uptake. That's interesting.
We're seeing more and more people coming to Avination.
Yeah.
And we've got one sim that's almost full of merchants already. It's just got merchants in it. We're not offering residentials at the moment yet. And so we're just building London.
It's interesting because Inworld, for example, is another OpenSim-based grid, but which is not hypergrid enabled. But gets a lot of traction, a lot of the creative community, rather than the marketing community, should we say? But a lot of the actual creative community have moved to Inworlds. They get more prims to play with. They can build better, and some of the mechanics are rather interesting too, because Linden Labs are bringing all sorts of updates into their viewer and everything else. And I don't know, an avatar res is a bit quicker now, server side, but other things seem to res slower and stuff. And I was amazed at the OpenSim conference. I used Singularity to go in. I was in within about 20 seconds. I had hypergridded to another grid within about another 15 seconds, and I was there. And I did all that. And if I've been logging into Second Life, the login screen will probably be only about a third of the way done. There is, in terms of accessibility, OpenSim clients even seem to be far faster than anything Second Life offers these days. But let me bring Will into this conversation, because amongst other things, we're going to talk about Oculus and stuff a little bit later. But amongst other things, we'll put up a post which I don't think it was this week. It was mid last week, if I believe remember right.
It was last week or something like that.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've written something.
Basically, what happened, as we announced last week, and everybody probably knew already, is that Linden Labs once again changed their terms of service. So when you logged in, you had to sort of say, OK, or optionally, you could press the link that said read it.
and some people actually did read it.
Yeah, exactly. It's sometimes wise to do it, but if you're trying to get something into 5 minutes, the last thing you want is to take time off for 2 hours to read the terms of service, and and then but if you don't accept it, you're not going to get in. But Will, you did bring up some very important points. There was a lot of kerfuffle initially about the Linden's expressions about owning everything and changing the terms of service so that it applies to every Linden Lab product as opposed to Second Life.
The thing is, it wasn't even about it wasn't like a pat statement. It was a very direct. It was a very redundant statement. It was over and over. It was in perpetuity, in every possible form, and in every possible dimension, in every possible X, Y, and Z axis. And if you sneeze it, breathe it, fart it, it's wow, dude, that's the longest sentence. They're trying to make absolutely certain that under absolutely no circumstance is this yours anymore. You're just making that out there. It's wow, you really went overboard on that sentence.
I heard that was true, that's what the last terms of service was saying, but I didn't believe it. So it's really true.
You know what?
It's really
people
true.
Say they imply it. They say they imply it. They say, the last before this terms of service change, people are saying, oh, they're implying it. It was always no, but they weren't actually saying it outright, so it wasn't in the terms of service. They were just kind of implying it, which doesn't quite hold up. At this point, now they just go to the hill, and I read it and I went, wow, that's and they're well, and I had a conversation with an RPA about it too, and she's like, no, I think there was just a boilerplate kind of thing from lawyers just trying to maybe it was a guffaw or something. And I said no. I just flat out told her, I said, look, I said, you can have your own opinion, you're totally okay, I'm okay with it. You can have whatever opinion you want of it, but here's the bottom line. If you've got good enough lawyers to work out paperwork to buy 2 companies, Desura and whatever the hell else that other place was, if you got a lawyer that's good enough to write the paperwork for that, then that terms of service writing was not a mistake. It was intentional. You don't write that stuff.
You don't put stuff like that out.
I used to work as an agent for artists, and I'm a terrible hustler. I relied on other people to go and actually sell the work. But what I was very good at was those bloody contracts, copyright law and protecting rights, and you.
Debs actually, I think Debs got it right here in the back chat. I'll let you keep going there.
But my thing was, you want to keep it as simple as possible, but you're always tempted to bring clauses in that just cover every eventuality. But I was talking to Inara earlier, actually. She doesn't do voice, so she couldn't come on except to do text. So I said, well, it's not very good television, is it? But she was also one of the first to point out that within a day, probably, Linden Labs had obviously picked up on the message, and they were posting sort of denials saying, oh, well, we didn't really mean that. You know,
of course they're going to say that. Like, oh, we didn't really mean that. Pay no attention to the actual framework that you sign that's actually upholdable, and just take our word for it. It doesn't work like that.
Exactly. That was my thought. Exactly. Well, it's okay for them saying, well, we didn't mean that, but I didn't see any replacement terms of service pop up.
And you're not going to.
It. Exactly.
You're not going to, because I think Debs here, caught it. I'm not gonna, but I have the same opinion. It's not, and you said earlier today, Mal, when he kind of caught me cruising through Skype, you caught me and he said, "Oh, you went on this huge rant," and actually that was just me writing really fast. That I wasn't even. It was a very nice post to begin with, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get it post right. I couldn't get the post right. I kept screwing up. So like after the third or fourth time of rewriting that whole post, I just literally speed wrote it and didn't even bother checking it. I just ran through it. So yes, it's a rant. It's a ranty kind of way, but I didn't want it to seem like I'm being all doom and gloom. What it boils down to is what it really boils down to is that these are things that are adding up on a very purposeful basis, and as much as and really what the post is about is me saying, look, you can keep the pie in the sky thought about it all you want, but the numbers are going down, and yes, they're still making money. I'm not saying they're doom and gloom and the bottom's going to fall out. It's not. What I'm saying is that in the next couple of years, I expect Second Life to transition into something very different than what you creators have founded it on, like what you as a community have gotten used to. They're trying to wrangle it from that perspective. They're trying to wrangle it away in every way possible, and they're doing a damn good job of it. I mean, and when a good example is when they started copying pretty much what the community was doing as and putting it behind a paywall. They called it premium accounts. You guys are all doing that now. Like, you're doing your sandboxes, you're doing your land rentals, you're doing even better houses, you're doing products, you're doing all this stuff. And what do? They just took all that and went, now it's a premium type of thing too. We do that too. So yeah, they're literally copying everything, but that's a gaming mentality, and that's something I said when Rod first came in. It's nothing against Rod. I mean, this is what people think. Like, people, I'm always calling him like Gaming Jesus and Rodimus Prime, and I got all these nicknames for the guy, right?
Yeah.
People think I'm like, I'm like just want to, that people like expect if I ever met Rod, I would like just walk up and like punch him or something. No, I'd shake his hand and be like, hey, I'm sure you're a decent guy. Yeah. What I think is that he is from EA. That's the bottom line. He was a VP over there, right? So he is trained in the art of corporate gaming. That's a very different mentality, and not just gaming. It's in a whole different class of its own. Any gamer that actually plays games, more or less, hates EA. Right, this is like a wide majority. These people are like the scum of the gaming universe. Gamers that actually play games and care about games, they want to just like run up to an exec and kick him in the balls every day of their life, because these guys just pull really horrible maneuvers. They do DRM that makes you check in 24 hours a day. You have to be online all the time. These guys do this on purpose. They, instead of using like widely accepted systems that are marketplaces and stuff like that, they go and make their own proprietary little systems. You see these exact same things. He's taken them from the same playbooks. He went out and got Desura. He didn't play well. He didn't play nice on Valve. He didn't like their terms. He went out and bought his own and said, I'll do it myself. He didn't want to play nice with the social media. What did he do? They made their own damn social media and expected everybody to play nice with their stuff. Yeah. And now, and I brought that up in the blog post, and somebody said, a couple days after that, in 366 or something, or whatever the hell the new number is, like, oh yeah, we're gonna, somebody put a Facebook floater in there. And I went, yeah, funny. 3 days after I said it.
Yeah, I'm dreading the Facebook thing, but this is very interesting, because I was reading a blog online during the week. It was about EVE Online's experiments with democracy, because they are actually one of the games that is still, pretty familiar to people. You don't actually hear much of EA these days, I don't think. But I think some of
I actually read that
Linden,
article too.
yeah, Linden Labs have had this habit, and it predates Rodvik actually. Not so much the original when Philip was running it, but certainly the Mark Kingdon era. They've always had this thing of relying on what the users do. They take, like the marketplace incorporates X Street and something else. They bought it up when it was successful. And they've always had this thing of trying to internalize the best things that happen in Second Life. And I wonder if there's a failure to realize that the more they internalize the successful things, the less opportunities there are for people in the world to build these things. And certainly Rodvik was obviously brought in as an alternative to Mark Kingdon's sort of business, general business focus, to
Closest thing they could come
gear
up
it
with.
back towards the gaming.
What it is the closest they can find. They can't really find. There's there's a shortage of of sandbox virtual world open-ended community kind of environments. There's a shortage of people who actually know that. Actually know that, right? Like if you're like an actual user and you're in a community, in any of these communities, OpenSim or Hypergrid, whatever, you can go across that whole area. The users know exactly what's going on. Like we have an idea. We're immersed in this stuff. We know the ins and outs, the little nuances. We know that it is very different from a game environment. But to a board of directors, they don't. They see it just a game, and they go, okay, well, the closest thing we can find, we're not going to find another Philip. And we tried to find a business guy to wrangle this thing together, and he, blew his own foot off for whatever reason. And we go, okay, so what's the closest we can get? So we get a game guy. Okay,
So
we got a
who-
game guy.
who
This
was
is the closest
doing
we
the
got.
looking? Who was doing that looking, Will?
I don't know.
Who is in charge of looking for the CEOs?
I got
Is there
no
like
idea.
an overlord to Second Life and we only hear about the CEO?
There's no
the
overlord.
heads?
There is no
There's
overlord.
board,
I
isn't
wouldn't say
there?
there's an
There's
overlord.
I mean,
I would
No,
imagine
well, there is
there's
a
board of
there
directors.
is a board of directors. There is a
Yeah.
board of directors.
Just like
and-
any corporation would have.
And
To be
investors.
honest, it's largely Philip. He is still he's not CEO of Second Life. He's chairman of the board, and there's Mitch Kapoor too. Those two between them are
Mitch.
the principal.
I've heard Mitch's name before, yeah.
Yeah, they're
Right.
the principal movers on the board of
Mitch,
Linden
So
Lab.
when, so when they have a falling out, and Philip goes, okay, this isn't going the way I want it to, and no, I'm not going to do this against the community because I truly believe the community can do this, and the rest of the board who's dropping money on it goes, I don't think so. Where's your exit strategy? Where's your your extra stuff? Like what comes after this? It's been like 5-10 years now. What are you guys doing now? Then you start seeing the expansion into games. But I think, in my point of view, in my opinion, and it could be completely wrong, but for what it's worth, this is exactly the type of stuff you'd expect from a company that is thinking 2 or 3 years ahead, looking at the numbers. And what have I been doing for the last couple of weeks? I've been working on internal projects myself, but also looking at Linden Labs numbers, for my own reasons, and just trying to do some trend forecasting for other things. Those numbers don't look too happy. I mean, yeah, they're still making money. They're making money hand over fist. Don't get me wrong, they are making money.
Yeah,
but they're not making. They're making $3.94 million a month versus $5 million. That's just $5 million a month in the same time last year. So that means they're making a little less than they're losing $1 million a month from last year, and that trend is going down. The number of concurrent users is going down steadily, and they see this as a trend. And any trend forecaster look at you and go, "No, you're not dead. The floor's not falling, the sky's not falling, but the writing's on the wall. If you can't reverse it, where's your exit strategy? What are you guys doing to circle the wagons? What are you doing to get out of this? What are you doing to expand?" And that's that's what that blog post was about. It was just me going, "Look, he's just a gaming guy who comes from pedigree of EA. He knows his crap. He knows his crap." But he's not going to sit here and tell you guys, "Hey, this place is going under slowly." He's not going to tell you that stuff. He's not going to tell you what he's doing.
Well, the figures are there to interpret, but I mean, it's Exactly. A million off here and there when you're talking multi-millions anyway isn't there, but there is a downhill slope, and I think let's say we are happy with Roderick internalizing everything and making building a higher wall around the wall garden, as it were. The thing is, I don't think Second Life scales, so it's not really in a position to promote itself and get new people in. It's okay replacing the people who run away with new people, but there's going to be a cutoff point, and to actually
doesn't scale. But then you got, the other things too, like you got other side projects they're doing. They got their video games, and that's what they're kind of betting the farm on. And they've got their eggs in the other basket too, like High Fidelity. So they're spreading out. They're spreading out. And they're taking care of their own.
I mean that makes perfect sense, but it's quite interesting. When I just before I updated the iOS during the week, I deleted. I was making space basically, and I deleted everything I hadn't really looked at since I installed it. And every single, I don't know, it was Versu. There were a whole load of Linden Lab things that have come out. For the iPad, the desktop, all over, and I can't be alone in not being interested in them at all. I downloaded them because they were Linden products and I wanted to see what they did for me. And I gather the only one that has actually made Apple's charts is the one they bought in, the one called Bloxworld, which isn't actually one of their own. It's one they bought in. And that actually is quite successful for them. But, they're
essentially trying to find a thing to take over. They're looking for the next big thing. They're looking for something to throw at the wall and hope it sticks. And they're just going nuts. They're taking down everything and trying to do all the above and hoping something sticks because they need it to. That's just the bottom line. They need it to.
You know what I think?
I
think I'm gonna throw my 2 cents in here real quick.
Hey,
I don't think anybody who has ever been in charge of Second Life has really understood what they've got. It's a social environment. They spend money, yes. The money's going to ebb and flow, and it's going to reflect the economy at large because people who don't have money in real life are going to have less for Second Life and vice versa. But if they would just leave it alone and quit trying to make it into something that it's not, it'll always be there and it'll be a steady source of income. But they can't leave it alone. They keep trying to say, well, it has to make $5 million a month because it was last year. We have to sell it.
Well,
it's like
there's
just leave it alone.
There's a way around that, actually. There's always been a way around that. And that's what gets me the most. It's been the same for almost every virtual environment I've seen in the last 15 or 20 years or so.
Yeah.
They've all had the same option. It's all the secrets in the marketplace. Instead of calling it a game, and this is where I kind of I roll my eyes whenever I hear Hamlet, or whatever. He goes, "Oh, it was a game all along," and I roll my eyes and go, "It was a platform." That's what scared the bejesus out of them is the day they went from saying, it was a platform to being an open-ended, from a game to an open-ended platform. The minute people started using it as an open-ended platform, as a virtual environment, it exploded. It went. I mean, that's the curve of every virtual world.
And
the same thing
I'm
happened
saying.
in active worlds, believe it or not. The same thing happened in active worlds, and every virtual world that came before it, that used the same methodology of the open-ended sandbox building, it exploded. It just stratosphere. And then what happened was and the companies went, oh, we got to do something about this, and they started encroaching, and that's when they all hit the wall. And I was waiting for Linden Lab to do the same thing, and bang, right on cue.
I think one of the reasons Minecraft is so successful is it's kind of open-ended. People just go into Minecraft and do their thing, and it's phenomenally successful compared with.
It's not just that. It's also the modding community. Mojang doesn't interfere with them. That's it. There's a huge modding community. I run Minecraft myself. I'm a moderator on a server, and I have some amazing mods that these kids have come up with. Kids and adults alike have come up with these amazing mods, stuff that even Mojang's had this stuff's not, that stuff's impossible. We can't do that. And these kids just come out of nowhere. I'm we're going to add we're adding shaders to Minecraft. We're adding high definition texture packs, sound packs.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
Robusta Sachs is the CEO of Metaverse TV. Is a big Minecraft fan, and he launched. I haven't actually shown the video here, but he put up the last video he put up actually is a mod that they've created for Metaverse. And I look at it and I just see these blocks and things, and it doesn't really attract me. I don't think I'd want to build there, but myself, But I can see the attraction. If you're going to expand, and there's going to be a huge audience out there for Minecraft stuff.
There's a sense of accomplishment. That's what it
Can I
boils
go back
down
to something that Will said
sure,
a while ago?
Yeah, Debs. Yeah.
And that is, Will hit something right in the button. Because, I have now accepted everybody saying, oh, it's a game. Yeah, okay, it's a game. But the thing is, like Windows, like OS, the basic platform of Second Life is a platform.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's it. That's what it is.
And
it's every one of them is just a platform. And if they would stop trying to be a service, anything more than a service and platform provider, after that, you let the reins go. You don't try to be a real estate mogul. You don't try to be, you don't try to get into muscle into the markets. You don't try to sell houses. You don't try to muscle into sandboxes. You shouldn't even have a premium account at that point, unless you can do something that. The only thing a premium account should ever do, and this is kind of a tried and true method here for like any virtual environment at this point, because I've seen it come and go in multiple. ActiveWorld suffered exactly the same thing for like 10 or 15 years, and I was always on the phone, always talking to like Rick Knoll and everybody over there, going, you know what you need to do, and they're like, what's that? And I'm like, you just need to make all accounts free instead of and quit jerking around. And they went, no, we're never going to do that. That's the one thing we're never going to do ever. And they like just lost their mind on me and kicked me and banned me out of the forums. So I was like, that's what you're going to do. I told them, you're going to do it one day. I said, and it's coming, and there's nothing you can do. And when you do, I'll be back here when they become free again, and my account will probably still be here. And I said, I'm going to wave at you. I'm not even going to say I told you so. I'm just going to say you're 7 years too late.
I have never, in 7 or 8 years of using Second Life, I've never even considered a premium account. It's how I'm a user. It's now the value for me. And there was actually another blog during the week, which is probably in the stream I put away on Twitter, where it was from an educational standpoint, but they were really rather damning about the future direction of Second Life in particular, in its inability to address the really rapid shift to mobile. You can't get, there's an independent viewer on Android. And there's Radagast on the desktop, which I had to use last night, in fact, because there's problems on a sim. But there is absolutely nothing on the iPad, except, there is one I use, Pocket Metaverse, but that is strictly a text client. There's no graphical component. And, everything that Linden Labs have put on the iPad by way of their new products is far removed from their base product. I mean, why they're not
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
viewer.
it would have to be a lightweight viewer, and you can just rig the present viewer and as an install. But the fact that they haven't even addressed that.
Yeah, they have.
And that's
they have. Where have you been? They had that Skylight viewer. Weren't you there for that test?
So which on the web?
The Skylight view, yeah, the web one. They're trying to do it that way.
Yeah.
That was their foray into it, and it just went into a giant pile of freaking dirt.
It's like blowing a balloon up with hot air. What happens when the air comes out? There's nothing there.
And the other thing is that was like that was like a streaming web thing on the desktop, and I thought it was actually quite impressive. But the thing was. It was an embedded version of an app. It wasn't an app in itself.
Oh yeah, that's how
if you want traction, you want people to just download an app, and they don't want to go to the web and see an embedded page. They want to launch the app straight away. They wanted an app called Second Life, and if they did something like that, you could almost understand the walled garden approach, because everything on an iPad is sandboxed. Anyway,
because even if you did it on a web, even if you did it embedded on the web, you always have to take a hit. That's just the way it is. You always got to take a hit if you do something embedded into a web page. And for all the times I hear people like Bruce Joy and everybody over at Avaya Web Alive going, yeah, this is the greatest thing. it's on the web. It's going to be that's the next best thing. And I go, that's exactly the same thing I heard right after Worlds Inc. Worlds Inc. and everybody, and then they went into VRML and X3D and said, this is going to be the greatest thing. It's going to be all VRML on the web. And I went, no, it's not. No more than VRML was.
I think maybe things like stuff built to run in HTML5 and stuff may have a future, but I don't think, we are seeing this move to mobile. People go to workstations to do serious work, but they no longer use workstations to casually go and play games and check out things. Some people do, but the mood.
I think you need to analyze the sentence. Then what you just said. People go use a real computer to do real work, and then they go.
Mobile.
They go flip off when they're using a mobile phone. That's what that's for. They're for bite size. That's what mobile's for. It's for bite size consumer small chunks of media. It's not meant for actual long-term engagement. It's meant for Angry Birds flipping birds across the screen. It's meant for the small stuff. If you want to get something serious done, it's a real computer, no matter what you do.
Can I get a word in?
Yeah, Tara, come on.
Yeah, I've been sitting here just kind of listening to all this, and I have a couple of thoughts. One, we do not know that Linden Lab is not working on a mobile app for Second Life. We don't know if they are or not. My impression from comments that Rod made in an interview here a month or so ago is they are, but it's difficult. Now, I would propose that part of the difficulty is when you take a gang of developers who have been immersed in the product, in the viewer for any period of time, the chances are they're having a hard time making a distinction between the forest and the trees. And so the chances, I can easily imagine them sitting around having endless conversations trying to decide what to leave in and what to take out, which is going to add to how long it takes them to do a mobile app of some kind for a Second Life. The second thing that Rod acknowledged in those comments regarding a mobile app is it's fiendishly difficult given the complexities of Second Life. And so, I would like to kind of be the voice of I'm willing to wait and see what they do. That's point number one. Point number two, there's a lot of business that is done using mobile devices. And it may not be to dive deep into something to do it. But if you consider the typical business call conversation is a 2 or 3 or 5 minute call, hey, mobile apps work just fine for that. There's a lot of texting that goes on. That's business. Those are business applications that don't involve a browser. And conversely, there's a lot of browser stuff that is being done in business applications with mobile devices. It's certainly part of the innovation business that I work for. It's all web based because it comes in through the same basic application. And there's numerous security layers involved in that.
That wasn't my point, Tara. My point wasn't that you don't do business on a tablet or mobile. My point was that it's meant for small blocks in 3 to 5 minutes and very short-term engagements. And all you did was just reiterate that. I'm not saying you don't do business on it. I do business on my phone and stuff too, but I don't do. I don't sit down and write a Word document. I don't do proofread and copywriting on it.
Oh well, no, I wouldn't either.
I don't do actual work on these things. I do. I check my email. I send a quick tweet on Twitter from my cell phone. I don't actually sit there and do long-term engagement. That was the point I'm making here. And the problem. And here's the thing: virtual worlds. And I'm going to say this now. Are doomed on mobile. I'm flat out frigging saying it before anybody gets on the hype wagon, because you're all already on it. And here's why: virtual worlds are categorized into the long-term engagement. You don't go into Second Life for 5 minutes. You go in here for an hour. People sit in here for 4 and 5 hours. You do not engage in an immersive environment on a freaking tablet that's meant for 5 and 10 and 20-minute small bite engagement consumerism in a virtual environment that is meant for full-on engagement and creativity on that level.
I would draw a distinction here because
It's like it's like trying to type out. It's like trying to type out your work. It's like trying to type out your research report on an iPad for college.
Well,
a college kid will throw the iPad at you.
Wait a second. I think there's a distinction here. I use an iPad, and I spend far more time on it all day scanning news and stuff like that than I do on the workstations now. But I think the distinction here is not so much the iPad, but I'm looking at the other pad type things.
Consuming of media is what they're for.
Yeah, consuming for sure. That's
consuming
their
of media.
But I can still.
And SL is meant.
Hang on a second though. There are bigger size tablets coming out, and I can quite happily type on the tablets. I can be productive on them, over and beyond consumerism. Now I can't do that on something the size of the phone. I'm the first to admit it. But I think tablets and the different sizes of them are actually coming into their own. They're replacing the idea of the laptop to a great extent.
Yeah, can I interrupt you there quickly? You're talking. What you're arguing about is platforms.
Yeah.
Android platform, the iPhone platform.
I'm not really arguing on a platform. I'm arguing on the semantics of the actual engagement. Engagement for each system. When you look at like a netbook, they're meant for smaller engagement. They're meant for low powered stuff. They're not meant for the high end stuff, right? These yes, tablets are great. I will never say they're not. What I will say though is that they're not in the same manner that Windows 8 is not meant for your freaking desktop. This is a paradigm. This is a paradigm mismatch. This is called metaphor shear. You're taking small bites of consumption information, things that are trivial, and you consume media. And yes, in a large part, you consume media in Second Life. But that's on a bigger scale. What Second Life is about is the creation of media, and you're going to have one hell of a time trying to emulate that, or if not give even a productive experience in that, because you know what that looks like? As much fun as it is, boys and girls, creating in Second Life looks a hell of a lot like long-term work that we do at our workstations.
Yeah.
I would like. I know
just
Deborah.
Because we enjoy it doesn't mean it's still not work.
Okay, but hold it. One thing I do think you're missing, Will, is Second Life. Yes, is a creative platform. I agree with you on that. But it is also a social platform. It is a community platform. It is a place people connect with people they know and people they don't know, and that's the piece of it where I believe the tablet option has real traction. As a creative platform, no, I wouldn't want to work on. I wouldn't want to build stuff.
Platform, we have chat, we have video chat, we have Google Chat, we have Skype, we have all these other things that let us actually do it.
Can I come in with an example? And Tara will know this actually. Some time ago, when it launched on the iPad, after a week in review show. A lot of the people in the channel launched on the iPad a virtual world called WeWeWo. Yeah, okay, forget the name. We were in there chatting in text and if in live voice, having a meeting in a virtual world for about 3 hours. We couldn't get enough of it. It was absolutely great. Now I can't do you can't create in there, and I certainly wouldn't use a pad for prim mangling. But if all I want to do is go into a concert and talk to people in the audience or have a business meeting with people, then I've used WeWeO quite often since. It's boring if there's nobody in there I know, but if I say to somebody on Skype, come into WeWeO, we can be in there for hours.
They would kill themselves laughing if you said come into WeWeO.
Yeah,
if you want to have a business. See, in the actual business world, we have something called for that already. It's called Go-To Meeting. We can have our video chat and our whiteboards and our actual business, and we're not just sitting around looking pretty avatars. So that's not a real good excuse to call it a business application. When you actually have actual business applications that are meant for that on a corporate level, that's what they use.
Well, you have you have a corporate virtual world like they call it a virtual world, Sococo. You have all these things. We have the iPad version of that.
And
it's a different, but it's not what I call the virtual environment immersively, but that's on the iPad.
I don't see it. I don't see it becoming a big thing. I really don't.
Debs.
Debs is dying to say
sorry,
something.
I'm interrupting you guys. I've just read something on the chat here, and it's from Scout, saying beyond any creation or let me say that again, or artistic value, the people in virtual worlds are there for the people in virtual worlds.
Yeah.
And they agree with Tara. And I think if we really, really analyse it, yes, creation is important, but that's early adopter stuff. People come for people, and they will continue to come for people.
I remember I was on a guest quite a long while ago now on designing worlds, and we got into a very convoluted discussion about OpenSim and things like that. And Elric, who's one of the hosts on that, absolutely agrees with me and you there on this point. I mean,
he's great.
It's community. If something is not offering a community, then it's inhibited. In terms of how much it's going to progress. Now, arguably, Second Life, the game, the future game, and the High Wall Garden can still be a community. So that's not an argument on the base discussion. But nevertheless, I think it's the most important thing. You come into Second Life, you go into OpenSim, you expect to find people there, you expect to have friends there. It is all about community. The virtual environment is simply a greater immersion level of engaging with community. Will is right when he says the immersive environment is immersive. That's why we call them immersive environments. We don't expect to go in for 5 minutes on the phone. But there are some bigger size tablets now that even, they're like the size of a laptop and stuff like that, which people are using as alternatives to laptops. And you can sit down, you can put it on your lap, and you can go into an immersive world and spend hours in there. The devices now span such a wide area. You've got everything from the pods to the phones to the iPad to the bigger pads through to desktops. Now, if I want to edit some videos and catalog things and stuff like that require my desktop, I come over here and I've got 3 darn machines up here right now. And I couldn't do this show easily from the iPad. Holding the camera and stuff like that. Well, maybe I could, but basically, I disagree on the definition of mobile here, I think, because laptops qualify as mobile. I know, but some people only have a laptop and they keep it on their desktop and never move with it, but they qualify as a mobile device. And there are tablet type things coming along now that you just slip under your arm even easier than a laptop, but actually have pretty much the functionality of a laptop. And I think in this area there is a middle ground here. I wouldn't want Second Life on a phone, but I might want I would want Second Life on a decent sized pad, because the navigational metaphors and things are a bit different, but you get used to them. And I think it's a very important change into the way we're using devices. You have the Internet of Things, and increasingly all our devices are linked up to them, and you use whatever is the most appropriate device in a particular setting. That setting may be where you are. Also, it may be the time you intend to be involved in whatever you're doing. But I don't think it's as simple as saying, defining, mobile is only good for consumption, and therefore, if you want to get into serious work, you go to a desktop. I don't think that definition really is there anymore. An artist, a designer who's used to using a tablet with their desktop is rapidly becoming used to using a stylus on a pad. They probably want more real screen estate, so they go for the bigger pad. But nevertheless, there is this middle ground, and I think it's a very important one to take into account, because we're going to have all sorts of devices, from fridges to vacuum cleaners, are connected to the internet in the future, and all these things are going to have smart aspects to them. And we might be using a desktop, or we might be using a pad, or we might be using a phone to even control these. So it's the way things are going, and I think any platform, and we're coming back here to Second Life, or even OpenSim for that matter, that doesn't somewhere in the back of their mind address these rapidly changing patterns of the way we connect online, is doing themselves a disservice.
They didn't even address it when they first started in 2003. When they say anybody they're going to address them now. In order to address it, they'd have to be able to scale for the other 7 billion people on Earth. Never happening.
Yeah,
that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem with. I mean, that's the thing with platforms that are successful, like the iPad, the Windows, and they are scalable. And that's the thing about Google. I know. Google's the arch enemy of everybody, but Google really know how to do their social stuff.
Hey, not me.
I
agree. I agree, man. I'll give my overlord Sergey a nice hug. If I'm going to have if somebody's going to own me, I might as well let it be Sergey Brin. He's making hamburgers. I'm good.
Well, actually, that there was another blog in the week that said that perfectly, and I agree with Will here. I mean, I'm happy with Google Plus. I'm happy with everything Google fires at me, and also they are. I know they've got the do no evil sort of thing like that, and you're skeptical and things.
And building hamburgers. He's funding research to grow hamburgers 10,000 tons. I like this guy.
They're in this for the long term.
He's altruistic.
And
he's being buddy with Elon Musk, who's got the SpaceX program and Tesla X cars, and they're getting together to try to make the full electric driverless cars. These guys are awesome.
Awesome.
I don't think doubt
these guys own me at this point. It's like
they have a long-term vision there, and I actually the funniest thing I thought of was Steve Ballmer, who has not quite left Microsoft yet, popped up in a week and accused Google of being a monopoly. This from the mouth.
Calling the kettle black.
I was just going to say, what is this? Yeah, there are certain things about kettles and blackness that.
Which shade of black?
The only difference between Google and Microsoft is at least Google's being good about it. They're being altruistic about it. They're not being. They didn't wait. It's not like like how Bill Gates did. He waited until he made all the money and went through the antitrust lawsuits and was a total dick about it. And then years later, he goes, "Oh, I'm going to set up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to help." And then I'm going to start doing this later.
Well, the critical piece of that equation that you missed. Bill Gates did not become altruistic until he married Belinda. That was when it changed.
Then again,
even though Bill comes from a family with a long history of philanthropy, he obviously didn't get the philanthropy bug until he got married.
Right. I think really he had to make up for all the sins of the Microsoft past too. I think the wifey was like, no, you're going to do something about this. You get all that money, you're not going to bring it with you when you're dead. So do something with it.
Takes the woman to turn the man.
No, seriously. Since I live in Microsoft country and know and have known my share of Microsofties over the years, that shift was very obvious to me.
Right.
Because it wasn't until after he got married that and he married late in life.
Yeah, I kind of felt that too.
And the thing with Sergey Brin is that he's throwing his own personal money into that hamburger thing, growing hamburger genetically or something, through lab grown hamburgers, so you can get 10,000 tons or something of hamburger lab grown.
Yeah, they do.
Totally lean, without killing the cow. It's I just want to go up and shake this dude's hand. I'm like, all right, you know what? You make Google, you guys are working on Google Glass, driverless cars. You've got, working with, playing around, hanging out with Elon Musk, launching stuff into space. Putting balloons out there, giving people friggin',
I think
super high-speed access in Kansas. I like you, or whatever. Just own me at this point. It's if all you want was my name and my address, and you want to throw me banner advertisements for this, all right, whatever.
I totally agree with that. I mean, Google are in it for the long term. They're not in it for a quick buck. They've got enough bucks already. I mean,
But you want to know what's
when
interesting?
Balmer calls a monopoly, it's because they are getting into this, that, and the other.
Well,
And
the interesting part is that the long term of it is that Google is actually operating on a self-defeating policy on purpose. Have you realized that?
come on, elaborate.
Think about it. Think about it. Like, think about the long term, right? Everything they're doing is bent on advertising, right?
Yeah.
Their whole model is advertising, right? So they're essentially using companies. They're using the company's money, who are just going, yeah, throw money at these guys, and I can't believe these people are giving up all this information. Let's advertise to them, blah blah, right? But look at what Google's actually building out of all this money. They're building driverless cars. They're changing the laws to make them legal. They're getting, efficient electric cars. Sergey's building, is funding, how to do, genetically, not genetically modified, lab grown, 100% beef without killing cows. He's literally making, he's actually putting into motion the long-term idea of a post-scarcity singularity environment. He's got Ray Kurzweil working for him.
Yeah.
So he's literally looking to take that money. If you look at what he's actually doing with that money, what he's inventing, what he's got his engineers working on, all these technologies, and he's hanging out with Elon Musk for space travel and electric cars and the Hyperloop. These guys are not messing around. They're they're literally in the process of building a post-scarcity singularity type environment where the money they're literally using the money to defeat itself. Yeah. They're like, yeah, just give us all the money. Yeah, and they're putting it into projects that are going to ultimately make it pointless to have the money in the first place.
Well, yeah, I sort of agree with that.
They're doing it on purpose.
I sort of agree with that because, the one thing you notice about technology and anything really is, when prototypes are phenomenally expensive, but, in a matter of years, they start coming down in price and they become every place, so it is the whole, the long term, Google, I don't like using the word engineering, but they're engineering a kind of future society, an environment.
I think they're at a point past engineering at this. I think, it's safe to start calling, take it away from Disney and call them, they're all Imagineers at this point. I mean, that's how far ahead I think.
I find that the funny thing is, I just get fed up of reading blogs that sort of, say which is the thing, Facebook or Google. There's no comparison.
Google.
Yeah, I mean, Facebook has is limited in its life. It's just sell, and they'll implode. Actually, is what will happen to Facebook.
They're going to implode, just like everyone before.
Yeah. Whereas the long-term view, the big threat probably is to Microsoft because as an operating system, there's the Chrome operating system, there's the other Google thing. I mean, and of course there's Android. There's Android and Android. The argument I listen to is people say, well, iOS versus Android is going to be the new Mac versus Windows. And in a sort of way, Windows is in such decline and Microsoft generally are just running around buying up things they hope will save them, like Yahoo are doing. I can see that, sort of, the days when Windows rules the world.
I think they're at a point where Google's just, I think even if Apple took on Google, they'd still lose. If they were wanting to go head to head, they'd still lose. They're just too big.
Can I take it even one step further than where you've got to?
Yeah.
Okay. Steve Jobs is dead. I'm sorry, but, Apple is Steve Jobs' baby.
Yeah.
And what they do, it won't be what Steve Jobs does. So let's forget about Apple. That's gone. Microsoft. Well, Bill Gates has gone really, and Steve Ballmer isn't Bill Gates. Okay. No. Yes, they're bringing out platforms. They're making absolute.
He's gone.
Sorry.
Yeah,
he's gone as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we forget about that. So what's Google pitching at? Well, you can bet they're not pitching at any of the IT companies. Maybe IBM, perhaps, but they're pitching at global
domination.
Yeah. I was going to say, okay, global domination. Call it global domination.
These are like these have got to be the nicest evil overlords in the world.
Yeah. you see,
And
their
I'm like,
rivals
I like
are going
them.
to be the pharmaceutical companies, the sugar companies, the big corporates. So they have, and at the moment, we are run by bankers. Our society is run by the financial system. They are looking to provide a replacement for that financial system. And it looks like, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Will. I think that
I think
that they're
Google's
looking
doing
for
it on
that
purpose.
replacement.
And they're doing it
Yeah.
they're doing it in such an ingenious way. And this is what dawned on me like a couple weeks ago. I was really going through my head, and it dawned on me. I'm like, wait a minute, this is how intelligent these guys have got to be. Not only are they making buku bucks on it by making it super compelling and doing the whole unification of all these services, right? That's one thing. That's a monopoly. Like that's where kind of Microsoft stopped, and they got a whole bunch of flack for it. But what changes in the context of, say, Google is that when you look at, okay, what are you putting all that money towards? You're not just sitting on it, you're not just jumping in a giant pile and swimming around in it like Scrooge McDuck. What are you doing with your money? You are literally using the money against itself. That's what they're doing. They're doing stuff that a normal company would look at this and go, why the hell would we want to make to do lab grown beef? That would destroy an entire industry. Why would we want to give away free internet? Why would we want to give away this? Why would we want to do that? Why would you do that? And they go, because we're making money. And they go, well, but you go, it makes a ton of money. Just keep giving us money, guys. And they go, well, yeah, I can't argue with the AdWords, AdSense stuff. Here's all my money. And then what they do with the money is they turn around and they invest it in technologies and stuff way ahead that are specifically designed to defeat the original purpose of where the money came from.
Yeah, but Will, you're absolutely right. And the thing is, our currency is bankrupt. Our society, our banking society is bankrupt. So something has to be after. Yeah. I mean,
I think Google has
the gold
figured that one
standard's
out.
gone. Yeah, gold standard's gone. We don't have gold to pay it.
If I had to say this outright, I thought about this the other day about stuff like Venus Project and Zeitgeist Movement, and going all the way back to like the 1920s and 1930s with the original technocrats. And it dawned on me that the technocrats turned into like an evolution, and that evolution of thought went into like Jacques Fresco for Venus Project, right? And he kind of like took the ball and ran and started doing architectural designs and trying to really keep the ball going. So it was like an evolutionary, and then the Zeitgeist movement took it a little further and made it into a decentralized movement. But what I think has happened along the recent years between Occupy and all this other stuff and Zeitgeist movement and Venus Project all catching on, and the obvious, banking fraud and all this other crap going on, I think what happened was I think people like Google just looked at it and went, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, it's absolutely asinine to have an infinite growth society on a finite planet. Let's change this. These are the people who could and should and are, and that's what's brilliant about it. Like they're doing it covertly. They're using them. Instead of trying to say, "Hey, lawmakers, you got to do this different. You got to find the banks. Instead of playing by that rule, they're just going, making it compelling for all those same crooks and stuff to give them all their money, and it's totally legal. Just give me all your money. No, you'll make a ton of money, and they do. And my God, they make a ton of money. They go, yeah, give me all your money. And what do they do with their money when they get it? They invest in things that are going to defeat them. They're letting them defeat themselves.
There's a little bit of harmony in here because the world these days exists totally on credit, and it's a known fact that there is more credit owed in the world than there is finance in the world to cover it. Yeah. It wouldn't be physically possible. It wouldn't be. Yeah, it would. Yeah,
it's just a straight out debt. There's more debt than there is.
If
everybody
on the planet, if everybody on the planet
exists, there's $1.10 that's owed.
Yeah, if everybody on the planet could withdraw all their money from the banks at exactly the same time, there wouldn't be enough to go around, and that shows that the whole system is totally corrupt and unworkable.
And if everybody could pay off their debts, then there would be no money to begin with.
It certainly makes sense that anybody trying to fire up a post-capitalist society where the banks are out of this, it totally makes sense that they use the last legs of the system to try and construct the alternative.
Right.
Otherwise we'd have total anarchy, and none of us really want that.
But you don't even have to convince them now. They just framed the question differently. They framed the argument in a completely different context, so that that the last legs of this old system don't even realize that they're contributing to their own downfall. That's the brilliant part about it.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
know.
about it. I went,
They
oh
do
my
now,
God, these
Will.
guys
They
these
do
guys are
now.
They do now.
You've just told them.
they're genius.
Okay.
It's genius.
Wow.
Since we're going to get
That's why I said. That's why I said in the
plays
beginning.
in the week.
That's why I said in the beginning. I gladly accept Sergey Brin as my overlord. This guy is genius. Like his engineer, they're brilliant. Like, you know what? Let them be a monopoly. I don't care anymore. You know why? Because they're doing stuff like that, and that is the long-term goal. I'm all for it, man. I will gladly say yes, sir. Thank you, sir, to Sergey Brin for that.
It's like, yeah, well, fair enough. You know,
Fair enough.
Who's
The man who changed and the world.
Who's going to
Well,
have
maybe that's his goal.
Yeah, who's going to have
that's his goal.
Who's going to have a problem with a monopoly that is self-destructive by nature? You know,
yes, and people don't realize that Google. You know, they're like, oh, they're a monopoly. They own all this. They make all this money. But I always tell people, I say, but think about what he's doing with all that money. They're doing it, and the altruism is self-destructive, but in the best possible way. Like, and they think about that far in advance. Like, by the time the money would disappear or something would collapse, the system would be in place to cover it anyway. He's covering his butt and the world's butt well after a complete economic collapse. This guy, I want to hook this guy.
Yeah, I mean, the economic collapse may not be for a while, or it may be tomorrow, but be sure it's going to come.
Yeah,
right.
So
right. It's inevitable. It's an inevitability. Right. It may not tomorrow, may not be next year, may not be 10 years, but it's inevitable because.
I think it's coming very close because we're being ruled now by governments who are, they're teetering on the edge of this collapse, and they're just desperately trying to think old style of a way out of it. You know, sort of, and
it's really just a plutocracy.
Even more to the point, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Is continues to erode in ways that there's a tipping point where the have-nots will say enough already.
And you also, the other thing that always fascinates me is the definition of the haves and have-nots. The divide, the polarity is there for sure, but it's all based, as Debs pointed out, on the banking system, on the notion of money.
Yeah.
If you take money out of the equation, there's as much more. You know, the difference between the haves and the have-nots is. It's notional.
Zero.
I mean, people own art, they own land, and things like that. So it's not as clear as just taking money out of the system. But
it's not even about the land. It's just about I think what Debs was going on about is that whole resource based thinking. You don't need to own it. It's not about what you own anymore in that kind of system. It's about having access to things. And think about Google. It's not. Google is looking at you and saying it's not about owning something physical in your hands. It's about having access to it when you need it.
Yeah. And
that's exactly the same thing. That's right on spot. They're thinking exactly along those lines, which means, what's the point of owning a car if a Tesla S model will show up a driverless version by calling it?
Yeah.
And drive you where you need to go. Why do you need a damn car if you can just say, hey, I need to go somewhere, and the car will go, hey, I'm here. You just get in and it'll take you.
Where do I have to move to have access to one of those?
This is what they're building. This is what Google's building. And this is what Elon Musk is building. They've got the Tesla car. He's got the superchargers. The supercapacitors are on like 2 or 3 years away to charge in 5 minutes and probably get you across the United States on a single charge. These people are not stupid.
I'm in touch. I'm not going to say who, but I'm regularly talking to them during the week in one of our groups. There's somebody who works, their day job, as they call it, is like a salesman for Apple, and he is 90% seriously contemplating moving to Tesla. Because of certain signs, for what's going to happen in the future, which is, absolutely fascinating. But let me pause this. So I'm going to do a to be continued. So you can both come back next week for part 2 of this epic discussion. I love this. This is when the show goes, into the whole online territory, and
this is when we actually figure out that Google's got a plan that nobody knew.
our immersive spaces are our big thing, but it's only just one facet of all the different
Absolutely.
ways
And in
of,
the futures.
of communicating in the future. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I have to say, we're going to wrap in about 5 minutes because our wonderful camera woman, Petlove, has another appointment.
really
But
sorry.
also, no, but not that. During this discussion, Petlove has been seriously quiet. So, Petlove, just quickly, your thoughts on all this before we
Well,
terminate the...
I just would have to say that it is a really, really fantastic opportunity to be able to hear, people such as yourselves who are well informed, have a lot of intelligence with which to make, judgments, and to really get the skinny on what is going on in the virtual spaces these days, and not only the virtual spaces that we enjoy, but the mobile mobile computing and just the whole general way everything is sort of going down the technology corridor. It's not very many places, and it's not very often that I get a chance to learn things like this. So I say kudos to all of you. I mean, you guys are all a lot more in touch with this world than I am, to be honest with you. And it's just really, really interesting to hear your take on these things. And where else are you going to hear stuff like that? Only here on Sunday afternoon.
Yay.
And so I've been quiet, soaking it up. I've just been soaking it all up. It's very interesting.
It is.
If we were any more in touch with this stuff, there'd probably be a law against it.
There probably is.
Yeah, I was just thinking there probably is, and we don't know about it. Yeah.
Really?
Well, I'm sure that the NSA will come knocking on our doors if we're in the U.S.
If the Secret Service and the NSA comes knocking on our virtual doors, we know what happened.
There's
Will,
so
you
much
went
more
too
to
far,
talk
Will.
about this, really. There really is so much more to explore. But
That's such a great topic to go on now.
And everything
It
is
really
so interrelated too. I mean, it's a lot of subtle stuff that goes into and contributes to the state of being. And you can't just blame any one thing on any one thing. It's like a combination of factors, always. So it's great. You guys are great.
Something I think is a thought for the week here, because we just said they probably know already, or they take us off air. We hear a lot about China and the Great Firewall of China, right?
Yep.
What we never hear about, probably in the States as well, but over here in Britain, is the Great Firewall of the UK.
You have one?
Oh God, we do.
I mean, that.
GCHQ taps every fibre optic and satellite communication coming into the country.
oops, down goes the line.
And they share it.
Darn it.
And they share it with the NSA, pertinent information.
The only safety is that there's too much.
Hey, we've got a wrap.
It's too much
for
them
next week.
Yeah.
This is my thought for the week on the wrap that we can come back with, though, basically. So, we have the Great Firewall of the UK, right? Just as possibly with even more surveillance than China. Now, if you live in China, you know about the Great Firewall, and you know what you can and can't do. And if you take the decision to breach the rules, you kind of find yourself in trouble in a place that's not a democracy, should we put it that way. In the UK, I have no idea what I'm allowed to do by that firewall. The first time I know of it is when someone seriously comes and visits me. The government doesn't tell me what's allowed and what isn't, except we'll arrest you if you go to paedophilia sites and stuff like that. But it's that's all tokenism. They can use the laws against that to track you for other things. The thing is, we don't know what we're really allowed and allowed not to do before the toughies come calling. In China, you do know. They've always made it very explicit. They pioneered a publicly announced firewall. Whereas in the West, we're living behind firewalls where we don't have a clue what the rules are. And then
they let you know when it's too late.
Yeah. So that's my thought. That's my thought for the week, which is better, knowing the rules or not knowing the rules. Interesting stuff. But anyway, finally, back to Tara. Any wrap-up thoughts, Tara?
Well, just one, and that is, we're really talking about an elephant, and it's the various blind men who are gathered around the elephant, and one of them describes it as feeling long and snake-like, and the one on another end says, no, it feels fat and rough and There's lots that there's. I would say it's well to remember that this isn't an either-or situation. We start talking about platforms and mobile versus desktop, and this isn't either-or. It's both and. It's a much bigger picture of all the possibilities when you take all the people who are exploring the possibilities. What works great for one person isn't going to work for somebody else. Pardon my French. Anyhow, so that's my parting thought for the day. There's room for all.
Yeah.
Right on.
Okay. Well, I think it's about.
Is Debs going to get a final word?
Yeah, I'm just about to say. I think it's about time to wrap. So I'm going to thank all my guests one by one, and they can give their final words. So thanks very much, first of all, to Debs Regent of Virtual London and of much other opinions too. Thank you, Debs. Any closing thoughts?
Well, it's been a real privilege to once again be in this company. I mean, Will and I talk about conspiracy theories and things like that in the past, so we're kind of very much on the same. Time. Yeah, we do on the same wavelength. So it was kind of a bit like getting a shotgun and sticking it in the room, having us two together.
Yeah, well, I love it. I wish Will was on the show absolutely every week, actually, because, if there is never any shortage of conversation once we get going, and he is absolutely great. He's got his finger on the pulse of everything. So, Will, thank you very much for being here again. I hope your problems with the laptop multitasking and exploding on you remedy themselves.
It will eventually.
Any final thoughts other than the amazing trail of thought we've had already?
Yeah, I got a final thought. It's not Debbie Downer like people would expect me to, but here's my final thought for the day. I'm actually a pretty easygoing guy, as much as people would think otherwise or read otherwise into my blog. I just wanted to say that somebody's got to be the Simon Cowell of the virtual world. And I've got it. I got it down pat. But that doesn't mean I'm evil or anything. I just like playing devil's advocate, boys and girls. So don't take it personal.
I'm
Sheryl Crow. Not Sheryl Crow, Cheryl.
I must admit, I enjoy playing devil's advocate too. But I can't stand Simon Cowell, but that's another matter. Petlove. Anything interesting on that you'd like to let us know about before we wrap?
Not compared to this, no.
Great show.
I still have my feed open here with various things in Second Life, but I think we're going to pass it. Something that might be of interest, and probably of interest to Will too, is it's World Space Week 2013 coming up in Second Life. There you go. Space as in the organic stuff that's off planet.
Sounds good.
I was thinking I was thinking we're exploring inner space because that happens quite a lot in Second Life already.
Yeah, some people would actually say you're already off planet when you're in Second Life, but that's another story.
That's their opinion. Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
Tune in next week.
That's their opinion, indeed. Okay, well, thank you, Petlove. Thank you, Will, and thank you, Debs, for being here. It's been wonderful to have you. Been a highly engaging conversation. I wish we could go on all night. Actually, that's why I said we'll continue it another time. I'm going to wrap for now because we have other things pending. Well, we have a whole host of clips coming up for you. I never did get a chance to the clips we showed on the channel before this show started. One of the more interesting ones at the top of the show was an announcement of I think it's going to be a film or event, but the Lost Art of Myst. And for those of you who don't remember, a game called Myst. It had a wonderful, it was a virtual environment in itself, and no solving puzzles, no shoot 'em ups or anything else like that. But the whole mood of Myst, I think, was one of the things that attracted me to Second Life and similar immersive spaces at the end of the day, because I'm not really a game player, but the mood of that particular one really sort of paved the way, I think. So it's quite interesting. They dug up a lot of the lost art, and whether they're making a machinima out of it or actually going to put it on interactively online, I'm not sure, but we showed a trailer for that. We have a whole load of machinima, performance, arts, lifestyle, music, you name it. coming up. We got 3 more of the Aesop's Fables machinima coming up in just a few seconds when we go live. And yeah, lots to watch for the next couple of hours. So hope you'll stay with us on the channel. And for those of you watching in replay, do check out the channel as well. But hope you've enjoyed the show, and we will be back same time, same place next week. Bye for now.